Hi, this is Eric Baldwin, and I animated a portion of the intro we're seeing right now. The original intro was going to start off within the bar and kind of circle around some of the patrons of the bar and then focus in on Daxter. But we decided it would be a little bit more interesting to see the city that we're about to start racing around in, and then come in through the exterior.
Hi, I'm Dan Airy, creative director at Naughty Dog. Here we go with Daxter, who always is telling his stories. This has sort of become, we accidentally fell into this accidentally while taping Max in New York one time, where he started talking and joking around, and his storytelling ability was just something that seems to be perfect for Daxter. So here he is, sort of starting the whole story, the entire experience of where he's been for the last few weeks in this dangerous city, crass city. And he has always, as usual, he has no idea how much trouble he's already in. Now, the interesting thing about this sequence, now that you've seen this is actually originally supposed to sort of surprise the player, the viewer, and thinking that they're listening to Daxter tell a story about something that happened in the past, and you think you're going to a flashback here and seeing what happened in the past. But as you see, as this scene develops, you'll realize that actually it's actually concurrent, and Jack's actually rushing to save Daxter because now he realizes that they're in trouble.
This is Josh Scher. I'm the lead cinematic animator for Naughty Dog, and this is the most technically challenging movie that we've ever done here at Naughty Dog. One of our animators, Eric, hit upon the bright idea of doing car capture. So we were actually able to drive the cars in the game in our actual levels without having to animate them ourselves. Made a lot of the scenes much easier to do.
This was our grand introduction to the character Razor, which I think was a nice departure for villains in in video games or animation. Just he was a little bit more eccentric and flamboyant.
Hey everybody, it's Taylor Kurosaki at Naughty Dog. I am the dialogue editor as well as video editor. The first thing that I started off with was trying, and this is how I normally work, is try to get some music that really inspires me to cut something that I really think has the right energy and the right tempo. And in this case, I'm a big fan of the band Queens of the Stone Age, and just kind of slugged in this song you're hearing now. And I just started cutting with it, using all of these really cool angles that Josh and Eric were given to me, and wanted to put something that was fun, was high energy, aggressive, and to me that Queens of the Stone Age music really set the tone nicely. These guys are like these burly thugs, and so that to me was what inspired me to start off with this music, first of all. Initially it was going to be just a placeholder until we found something that was equally as good, or have someone score something, but really in the end we decided that really nothing was going to be better than these two songs in and of themselves, so we stuck with it. But this was a really fun thing for me to do. Normally, again, I'm just cutting trailers for the games and things of that nature, and it was just great to have the opportunity to cut something right here at the beginning of the game.
Now, in the previous Jack games, all of our cinematics were done in real time on the fly on the PlayStation 2 using our code. Now, in Jack X, it still is. Everything is still generated in real time, and everything is still done using our code. The difference is that we are actually taking screenshots of each individual frame and then assembling them all into one MPEG movie. The reason we're doing this is simply because there's not enough memory in the PlayStation 2 to go back and forth between the levels like we're doing in this particular movie. So this scene sets the stage for the main story of the game, which is, of course, why Jack, Daxter, and the rest of the gang have been coerced into racing for Crew. Now this, of course, is also our introduction to Crew's daughter, Rain, who, as you can see right here, must have gotten her looks from the mom's side of the family. We'd actually wrestled a little bit with her character design for a while. We were thinking about making her a little bit more, shall we say, Rubenesque, but the Naughty Dog female character design standard won out in the end. Now, this scene is also interesting because this is really the first scene where we took advantage of the fact that we were essentially screenshot capturing all of the scenes instead of playing them back in real time. And this enabled us to do a hologram effect that pretty much would have been impossible to do, or at least not look nearly as cool in real time on the PlayStation 2. So Essentially, this is seen as composited, much like a film special effect would be composited. What we had to do was create two separate scenes. One scene that had all of the characters except crew in it, and then another scene that had just crew in it against a purple-black background. And what we were able to do is extract crew from the purple background and then superimpose him over the scene that you see here. Now, obviously, all these guys do not want to be working for crew because most of them worked for crew in Jak 2 and didn't find him to be a particularly savory fellow. But as crew says right here, he's put poison on in all of your drinks. One of the things that we were sort of debating at the very beginning of the project was how exactly were we going to get crew to coerce everybody into working for them. And we came up with a bunch of different ideas. And ultimately, the reason I think we went with poison is because rather than something impersonal such as, like, say, I've put a bomb somewhere or I have secret information on you and things like that, poison is not only deadly, but it's also much more direct and much more personal to each of these characters.
Well, your father's crazy.
So as you can see, everybody's getting pissed off at Rain, and we set up the who can we really trust in this game sort of dynamic. Now, of course, from an animation standpoint, this scene was also very challenging because, well, when you get a scene, what you're always hoping is that, one, it doesn't have too many characters in it, and two, there's not too much interaction between objects in the scene. The scene, of course, has many characters in it, and it has everybody picking up wine glasses, putting down wine glasses, sitting in chairs, standing up from chairs, and everything else like that. So it was a very challenging scene, but quite a lot of fun to work on.
This is Jason Martinson's scene, and my job sometimes is to help these guys out with their staging. A lot of times at Naughty Dog, the animators choose their own the way they want to approach the scene. In this case, I told Jason, look, this is the first time that these guys are going to be racing, so we need to have more energy. They need to look like that they're actually nervous. A lot of times we call these scenes bouncing heads or flapping gums, and in this case, Daxter particularly, since he doesn't really have anything going on, I told Jason, why don't you have him look up medical files, and the direction I gave him was he was literally looking up some sort of venereal disease. That way you can kind of play it off as to poison or whatever, and a lot of times subtle clues like that will give the animators an impression of what the character is going after. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what is on the character's mind, but something similar would be ideal. So that, I think, helped Jason out in terms of what the characters could be doing. Otherwise, because of the hitting our 30 seconds a week insanity of trying to maintain these animations, a lot of times the characters are rooted to the ground, and anytime that we can get the characters to move around, it helps us out with getting more life in the scene. And here's an example of the GT cam. And incidentally, this was not GT's original design. The original design was almost pre-Jak 1 era. So we had to kind of change it based on not fitting in. So that's my cut.
You know,
this scene was a lot of fun to do as well. There were a lot of characters in this scene, which made it really tough to do, just to kind of keep track of how and where, I mean, all the characters are, how the camera's going to move around the scene, and, and keep everything in context. And above that, also, there was the playing between Ashlyn and Rain. Obviously, Ashlyn hates Rain's guts, and she can care less about her. So it was interesting to play that as well. And plus, with another moment with Daxter freaking out, which is always a lot of fun to animate as well.
Here had better win, or I'm gonna be very pissed and very dead.
Hi, this is Eric again. This scene, I look back on as one of my more favorite scenes to work on, just because of the performance between Jak and Razor. Even though Jak doesn't have much speaking part, it's the tension that's being built up, and the performance we got from Razor was good. So that is always better to animate too. So I got to try to just really show his personality through his menacing behavior, but he's also trying to sound like he's somewhat friendly, even though it's very thinly veiled. It kind of breaks it right here. But again, it was just really a scene to kind of show his personality and these two characters butting heads. And it was also fun to do Daxter's little one-liner in there, as short as it was. Hello, this is Eric again, and this scene we get our first introduction to Pecker in this game, and hopefully it's as much of a treat for the audience as it is for us. Pecker's always fun to work with his, he's just got that different body shape and feathers for fingers. And his personality is obviously key. We also get to plant the seeds, kind of the interaction between GT Blitz and Pecker. There's a little animosity. At this point in the story, what we know is that Pecker's kind of stepping on his toes and taking over his gig in some terms. But he also starts talking about the back plot of Mizo, and as we find out later in the game. Blitz, it doesn't really want that revealed. And we got just a little bit of Daxter's reaction to seeing Pecker again. They're friends with a little bit of animosity between them. So, as friendly as it is, it's fun to just kind of play that up. We see Blitz has got a toupee. I wonder if that's going to reveal anything.
I guess the interesting thing for me about this scene is very little notice. One of my favorite things I did for the game actually was this sort of Naomi Campbell catwalk thing that I did for Rain. Doesn't really show up a lot, but I really enjoyed doing that. And I tried to keep that consistent, that sort of attitude with her consistent throughout. I guess the other thing that was important here was someone who shall remain nameless decided it would be funny to have UR-86, the robot, pick up Daxter by the head, which involved a not at all trivial sort of inversion of the animation hierarchy. Was not easy to do. But I hope the payoff was okay. This is one of my favorites, actually. I like playing with Daxter, and I think he's funny here, despite the torture he undergoes. And I guess that's it.
One of the new bits of technology we created for this game was the ability to stream textures off of objects in the background. And what this enabled us to do is to do all these TV screens that you see here. What the animator would do is actually animate them as a separate scene, and then it would be applied to the television set in another scene, and then we would continue animating from there. Now, this scene was actually animated by Jason Martinson, and since Jason Martinson is no longer here, I thought I would attempt to channel Jason Martinson. I sat across from him for a while, so I think I have a pretty good grasp on his voice. Okay, one of the most interesting things about this scene is that line of Rain's, when she says, "Oh joy, that Blitz fellow really gives me the creeps." Actually, that was supposed to be Kira saying, "Oh joy," but the thing is, they both sound so much alike in that one particular moment that you just never really noticed. So we just went with it. So here we are looking at Sig inside the camera. Blitz is always surrounded by his cameras, and so wherever he goes, the cameras go with him. And so once he leaves, the cameras leave with him. Thank you, Jason. That was very informative. You're welcome. See you around sometime? Yeah, sure. So anyway, here comes Sig, who is the only one who is smart enough not to go to the crew meeting. We had actually talked about the fact that he was here after having received a care package from crew posthumously, but then we just decided that at least one character needs to be smart enough not to drink the poison. This is Josh again. This is actually one of my favorite scenes that I animated in the game because GT Blitz and Pecker are both such dynamic characters, and they're butting heads all the time. It's kind of like immovable object meets unstoppable force. The other fun thing I had to do with this scene is I got to pull some images from the Jack archives. That one of Jack fending off Kira and Ashlyn, of course, was one I made up specifically for the scene. The other fun thing about using still images is that it means less for me to actually animate. Yay! This is one of my favorite bits with the shaky cam and Pecker and GT Bits sort of fighting for the camera here. My wife says I make that face sometimes when I'm unhappy. And just lots of fun animation. And of course, I have to throw an obscene gesture into the game at some point, so here it is.
This was a scene that was animated by Greg Griffith. Just so we made sure we made all the old Jack fans happy, we made sure Kira was definitely in the scenes a lot more, a few of the scenes, and we heard a lot of issues about people wanting Kira more into the story and into the game, so we did that. And so you get lots of that, and of course Daddy's there as well. So when was the last time you ever saw a father-daughter fight in animation here, trying to do something a little different, and also make sure that the Kira fans are all satisfied. One of the things about Kira that's interesting in all this whole story, when we started doing the Jack X story, basically, we wanted to kind of figure out a way to have the plot and all of these issues, these personal issues, actually interesting enough that they could also be resolved on the track. And so Kira wanting to race was just a perfect example where she's always sort of helping Jack out, giving him tools and weapons and things. And for the first time, she's really pushing back and growing up and saying to her father that she wants to get out there with the boys and mix it up. So we knew that this was one of the smaller plots that could actually be resolved on the track. And a lot of the issues with Jack X was how do we make these plot points get resolved on the track, which was really challenging. But overall, we wanted to make sure that a genre that's traditionally light on story, like a racing genre, could actually for the first time have some emotional impact based on story and have a narrative that really makes you interested in racing, not just to race for the fun of it all, but to actually get out there and see what happens next.
Okay, what we have here is a scene with Jack and Rain and Daxter here, and Jack's explaining the complications of the race. Of course, Rain doesn't clearly understand, so Daxter comes in and explains it to her. And she looks kind of stupid here, and Daxter's just making her look like a fool. So soon Cleaver arrives, and he adds more anxiety on top of what's going on here in this scene. But of course, Jack and Dax are taking a stride, and they are totally cool with Cleaver. Cleaver does not affect them in any way whatsoever. As you can see here, Daxter is making fun of Cleaver here too. And so Cleaver is like, I'm going to get you guys if it's the last thing I do, as he walks off the screen. This scene here was a lot of fun to do. I got a chance to do a lot of different things with Daxter that I didn't normally get a chance to do, like have him flip around a wrench. I thought it was fun just to have an object that he could play around with, and that sort of thing. Most of the time you just see him, talking without anything in his hands, but with this scene I got a chance to do something different. Another thing to note is that I picked up animating the scene from Adam. He left midway through the scene, so I tried to match my animation to what he did earlier, and he did mostly the first part of Cleaver walking in and basically blocked out the rest of the scene.
Hi, this is Josh again. This is, of course, one of the big plot reveal moments in the game where we learn that Crew isn't just having Jack race just for the heck of it, but in fact he's made a bet with Mizo. One of the interesting dynamics in this scene that I tried to play with a little bit is, of course, as we find out at the end of the game, Rain has known all along what her father has been up to. But, of course, in this scene, she's completely playing the innocent. So at the very beginning of the scene, when Jax walks in, she's actually watching the hologram already, and the implication is that Jack has actually interrupted her, but the way that she plays it off is she's just like, oh, I just happen to be going through my dad's things. So I tried to leave that fairly ambiguous. Now, this part at the end of the scene was actually one of my favorite bits that I worked on in the game, because there's a lot of good sort of interpersonal dialogue, and Jack giving one a fairly unusually long speech for Jack in the game. Usually Jack is a man of few words, but here he's giving a little soliloquy. And, getting a little bit of contact between the two different characters. And Jack, being the sap that he is, moves in to comfort Rain.
I'm out there with you.
So this is kind of an interesting scene we put together. We wanted to sort of continue to show Rain and Jack having their relationship and their kind of strange difficulty that they had with each other. They kind of were attracted, and yet they had other issues. And of course, always Blitz being in the middle of all of this. But in this case, he's really coming on strong with his show right there in front of him.
The rat's finally coming up.
So the idea behind this again was that as Jack has been winning the races, that suddenly Mizo realizes he's going to lose, and so he's trying to offer a deal to try to broker a possible settlement before Jack wins. And the excitement about this whole thing, of course, as you know, is setting this up was that obviously Mizo and Blitz are the same person. So we're just trying to give you a little bit of foreshadowing with the tattoos on the top of Mizo's head. You'll understand what those are all about later. With the whole toupee. So yeah, Blitz is understandably surprised that Jack didn't take the offer, but that's Jack for you. He's a hero. He's going to fight to the end. And Daxter, he's not happy about any of it. Here's another scene with GT Blitz, sort of more of a quiet, intimate scene, considering we have so many flamboyant scenes with him. This is him a little bit in a much more toned-down manner. We wanted to kind of show both sides of him. What's interesting about this scene, actually, is this kind of giving you a tip of the iceberg of a much bigger plot element that we had to sort of excise slowly from the game. We just didn't have, we had too much going on, and we didn't have enough on-screen time for everything. Actually, GT's father, this whole issue and the idea of referencing his father was really because we were going to actually expand on the idea that there was sort of a plot going on and some red herrings that people wondered who had actually killed him, who had killed GT's father. It turns out GT did. So this was going to be both a red herring and a surprise in the story.
The thing I was enjoyable about doing this scene was just sort of playing with the ambush journalism notion of GT walking in with a set of cameras and sort of surprising everybody with this sort of reality show, secret revealing moment. And wouldn't the journalists of today love to have objects like these floating around? I think it's rather unfortunate that Jack comes off not looking too good in this. There's really no way to get around that he lied to everybody. But it was fun to do, and I like putting GT's face in the camera like this. I think he's a fun character, despite everything. And once again, I get to do a little bit of
Who are you?
A little princess catwalking with Rain here, a little bit of attitude with her, which I kind of like. Right there, and I love this moment of hers.
You wouldn't understand.
As if we haven't all seen that from somebody somewhere.
I'm used to taking care of myself.
Welcome everyone to the final
yes, this scene here took some time to do. It was a lot of fun. Another scene with all the characters here, and this dynamic is the last final boss race here, and we're going to go into the race. And we see Blitz here talking about the race and that sort of thing. I think what I was trying to show was the, the anxiety on the faces of the characters, and the inner conflict between Rain and Ashlyn. And then Crew shows up to show that much more on top of it. And I think I did a pretty good job. I approach these scenes with a sort of necessity, the urge to animate, and I think I enjoy that very much.
Got your back, Jack.
And I've got yours.
At this point, you can see Jack scolding Rain a little there, and
Kira, you're not going.
at the end of the scene, everybody comes together and says, "Hey, we're going to do this for the better of all of us and for all better good."
Let's do this.
And hopefully, they will succeed.
Right in the groin. Let's make Mizo pay.
Hi, this is Eric again, and this is the first part of the outro. There's a challenge in staging this in that when Blitz comes up to the crowd at the end, he has to be oblivious to the cameras being on him. So as he reveals his whole grand scheme and plan, he has to, feel safe in that. So when I staged the beginning, I had these crane shots, or the helicopter point of view, almost showing their relative situation, their relative positioning on the stage, which is the death drum here. And Blitz comes up and has his big reveal that he's Mizo. There was an element in the script that we ended up opting not to use, where the Mizo part of his personality was actually kind of a split personality, and he had a little dialogue with himself as he, was resolving that. It just seemed to be a little bit too complicated to explain and present in such a short scene.
This scene was a very last-minute addition when we realized there wasn't a good connection between you blowing up Blitz in the game and him ending up in a mangled heap at the end of the scene. So Taylor and I planned out a very quick little Blitz crashing scene and threw it together in about 2.5 days.
Are you still talking?
And so Jack walks on, picking up the antidote case that miraculously landed right side up after Blitz's crash.
And why not?
Now, this scene is interesting to me because the way that Blitz taunts Jack as Jack is walking off is by referencing the fact that Jack left Damus behind at the end of Jack 3, and also, frankly, left behind the Baron at the end of Jack 2, which is why Jack looks a little bit sad as he walks off here. And then, Blitz blows into 1,000 pieces.
So this is the outro, and we wanted to, again, try to bring in more energy to these scenes, given our 20 seconds a week mandate, which always goes into 30 seconds a week, of course. So one of the things that I enjoy tremendously as an animator who no longer can animate because I'm doing production designs and whatnot at Naughty Dog is setting up the camera staging. I really get into that, and in this scene I had a great time getting in there and choosing the camera angles. For a lot of the shots, for example, in this one, I want to make sure that we have an upshot on crew, as we have established throughout the production, to give him more presence and more weight. And in this case, he's looking down on him. And then we want to get more of a personal view, so that we cut back to them. And anytime that we cut to the characters, I'm trying to minimize the number of times we cut. So in a few cases, we actually combine the camera shots. Here, Dan Fowler actually animated this sequence, and the idea was, now that we see Rain in her new presence, we kind of get closer into her head and see what she's really thinking about. And we also want to, I thought it would be really cool to bookend the way she drives off into the sunset, the way we see it in the intro. And back to Josh animating here, and Josh had the hard task of coming up with the kiss shot, and anytime polygonal characters kiss, it never looks right. And his take on this was that, it's Daxter has actually prevented them from kissing so many times that you have to do it like that.